Hey there, this is Pat Ennis of Ennis Legacy Partners. I'm here with co-host Walter Dial. Our mission here on the podcast is to provide you, the business owner, with subject matter expertise on topics pertaining to building transferable or sellable business value, and then for planning your eventual exit from the business. We want to help you build a business that is transferable and then exit successfully on your own terms and conditions. Brand recognition and goodwill can significantly impact a business's the success of a business in not a few ways. There are financial benefits, reducing marketing costs as people already know and trust the brand. Goodwill is an intangible asset that increases the value of a business. Recognized brands often attract better investment terms. So that's just a short list of financial benefits. There are others. There are market advantages. People repeatedly purchase from brands they trust. Trusted brands face less market resistance. It can help maintain market share against competitors or new entrants into the marketplace. And then, so there are financial benefits, market advantages, and operational benefits. And some of the operational benefits would be professionals, top professionals that you're trying to recruit, bring onto your team. They prefer working for respected brands and companies. And then other businesses seek to partner and have an association with recognized and respected brands. And there can be a stronger position if you've got a strong brand with suppliers and partners. And so financial benefits, market advantages, operational benefits, and that's not an exhaustive list, of course. A key initiative that has helped our firm with these things in a significant way is this podcast. We recently had someone contact us from out west who was interested in talking about buying our company, and a big reason is that they loved our branding, and particularly they highlighted this podcast. And so our topic today is increasing brand recognition and goodwill with a podcast. And our guest is Joe Ennis, my son Joe Ennis, who's a senior podcast and video producer at Artform Agency. He's been in this space now for a lot of years, and so he knows it inside and out, and he's a big reason that we're still doing this. And so, hey, Joe, good to see you this morning. Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a few years.
Hey. Yeah, this is actually the first time that me and you have been on a podcast together.
We had you as a guest, I don't know.
I know, and it was Corby and Walter.
Oh, I wasn't here?
No, you weren't there. This is the first time.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for coming back. We're looking forward to this conversation, right, Walter?
Definitely. Hey, Joe, let me start. So, over 6 years ago, I think you encouraged me and Pat to try a podcast. We were trying to get the exit planning business going. Kind of a newer field at the time. A lot of people weren't familiar with it. And you kind of sold us on the fact that a podcast is a great way to get the message out there. And we've really viewed it, really as a way to educate our listeners. But at the same time, we're reaping all the benefits that Pat mentioned, incredible exposure. What blows me away is when we get these weekly statistics that you give us. And there's people from all over the world watching, viewing and listening.
Yeah, we just had a guest on, Christine Nicholson, who's in the UK, and
yeah,
she's a regular listener. She recommends us to all of her clients in the UK, and she reached out to me and really wanted to be a guest. And she was a phenomenal guest too.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're looking at your other clients that you work with, I mean, it seems to me like almost any type of business, this podcast and maybe the YouTube thing is different. We can talk about that, but getting out there some way is just an incredible benefit. I mean, you look at they're trying to do away with TikTok. So TikTok has these commercials where these small business owners go on, and it's like, I wouldn't have a business if I wasn't on social media in some way. I mean, that's really the way things are going nowadays, right?
Yeah, that is very true. It's interesting. We, for a long time, have seen things like shorts, YouTube shorts, TikToks, Instagram reels, and whatnot kind of explode. And those are, usually less than a minute. And they've been a really impactful new form of social media, and they still are. They're still, to be honest, kind of the king. However, I think also just kind of going down the podcast route as you're talking about, I think actually podcasting has slightly been on the rise again. I wouldn't even say slightly. I think I would say greatly on the rise again. Mainly due to a couple things. The first being, I think that people are getting sick and tired, even if it's subconsciously, of the really fast swipe content, which is what we call it, because you're just constantly going to the next thing. Hearing 1 minute from one person and then 30 seconds from another and then 30 seconds from another, I think people are starting to get frustrated by and bored by to a degree. Again, it's still the king. It still brings in the most views, but we're seeing things like podcasting and long form conversation really taking another height, if you will, especially because of things like, to be honest, like politics. Joe Rogan's interview with Donald Trump and his interview with JD Vance are some of like the most viewed things of last year. And people are actually calling for political debates to be long form podcast conversations. And it's for a couple reasons, but the main one is, in the world that we live in, people want quick hits of quick things really fast, and then they want to move on to the next. But we're actually seeing it kind of reverse on itself a little bit, where these longer form podcasts are things that people are actually interested in because it builds more human connection. It builds more trust, as you were talking about, Pat, of just it, you can connect with the people that are educating you, and hopefully you can learn to trust them and feel like you have a human connection again, really. And so I think actually podcasts, as of the last probably year and a half, 2 years, are starting to be on the rise again of what people are looking to consume. Podcasts have been around for a while and they're pretty saturated, which is why we recommend other forms of content as well. But I think the long form podcast content, as you guys see as well, is what really builds trust and resonates with people to come back. So I think especially now, after some of the ways that the directions content has been moving, online content has been moving, podcasts are becoming a very big tool again that people are wanting more of.
Okay, so all of that, I've observed that myself, frankly. It just does seem like there was an initial, spike in podcasts and when they first came on the scene, and then it kind of leveled out. But within the last year or so, I have noticed it seems like it's on the uptick once again. Okay, so let's just keep in view here our listeners who are small business owners, and they want to increase the value of their business. They want to increase the value of it. They want to increase the brand recognition, the goodwill, the revenue, of course, the profitability. They want to become visual experts in the marketplace. They want their voice to be out there and differentiated. So all of these things they want, and we've us, we've limped along. We limped along with this. I mean, you were the one who just kept this kind of on track. If it wasn't for you, frankly, we wouldn't have continued with it. But here we are 6.5 years later, as Walter said, and we're starting to realize some of these benefits, financial benefits, market advantages, operational benefits. And so what would you say to small business owners who are listening to this and they're thinking, yeah, you know what? I've thought about doing a podcast, but I really don't know where to start in making it happen. What would you say to them?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of things that I would say to them. The first thing that I would say is why a podcast, to be honest, over any other sort of social media content. I'm not saying that podcasts are a bad thing. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of them. But podcasts are, as you said, they're a slow burn if you're just going to do a podcast. It takes, you guys have been doing this for 6.5 years and you're seeing benefits now, but it's been 6.5 years. There's things that you can do to make that faster, especially as of today, but that's more work. And some people don't have that time. They don't want to spend that time. So the first thing that I would say is why a podcast? And the second thing that I would add to that is, it depends on the type of business, whether it's a service or a product or whatnot that you're selling. However, and there's, what I would say is there's pros and cons to different types of content. The main pro to podcasting, there's two, is education and like personal connection, as well as trust. Well, I guess personal connection would fit more into that second one, but trust with the company that you're listening to or the influencer that you're listening to. I think when you're a business similar to you guys, where you're a service business, you're working with professional service firms, you're helping people with a lot of money. Selling a business is somebody's, baby a lot of times.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake.
Right.
And
that's kind of what I'm getting at. And they want to know that the person that they're trusting all of that with is trustworthy. And you guys have shown that time and time again. You show it every 2 weeks. I know, Pat, you've told me, there's been countless stories of people that either listen religiously or they come to you a lot and they're like, hey, I just listened to a recent podcast episode. And I did this. What do I do next? Or they're asking follow-up questions, and it's that personal connection and that trust that podcasts are building. I think that's the main thing that I would ask them is why a podcast, and these are the benefits to a podcast. But there's also other different forms of content that I would potentially also recommend over a podcast. But for a company like you guys, I think a podcast is right up your alley, and it's what you should be doing.
Okay. So when is it typically a good fit? It's ended up being a good fit for us, even though, again, we limped along for a long time. And some would say we're still limping along, but not because of the two of us and how good or not so good we are at it. But when is it a good fit and when is it not a good fit?
Sure. I mean, to be honest, you can always kind of make it a good fit. You might have to find a very specific angle for the show. Like if you're selling, I don't know, silly putty, it's hard to make a podcast about why you should be buying silly putty from somebody. However, if you can angle it of like, we tested our putty on fixing a couple different houses in the area or different problems, and these podcast episodes are talking to the people who used it and how they used it and etc. You can find an angle, but I think it's mainly the biggest benefit are the people that are going to, they really want to build that trust and they want to show their knowledge and expertise in the field that they're in over the other guy. I would rather, I think I said this on the last episode that I was on here, but I would rather go to the person who's, created content. I can listen to them talk for 30 minutes about expertise in a field and reach out to them if I need help, over a guy who's just like, I can help you. And that's, pretty much it. Like, and just trying to take their word for it. And so that's where I would really say, you can make it work, but sometimes you're going to have to find, more niche angles than others. And that's where I might recommend you look at other forms of content before a podcast. But I think you guys are in a field where there is no shortage of information, and it's sometimes very complicated and complex information, and you guys simplify it and make it easy for people to just go, I don't know what this means, but I can listen to this 30-minute episode of Pat and Walter explaining it to me, and it's going to be much simpler, and I'm going to trust that I'm getting correct information, especially due to y'all's
good.
background.
So that's absolutely a goal of ours. Hopefully that's happening. I think it's happening.
It
Based on the
definitely happens. Yeah.
feedback that we're getting.
Right.
Can I ask you something, Joe? So,
Sure.
one of the things that Pat and I do, which I think makes the podcast very watchable, very informative, is it's not, me and Pat discussing the topic of the week. We have other experts in, and we try to put ourselves in the position of our listeners and try to ask the questions that we think they would like to have answered. Is that a normal format? Or is a lot of it just, hey, see how smart I am, and you just go on about stuff?
No, absolutely. You are correct. That is a normal format. That's, most of the time, YouTube's the second biggest search platform in the world. You guys are on YouTube. Your YouTube channel does pretty well. People go to YouTube to ask questions and get their questions answered. They don't go to YouTube to say, how smart is Walter Dial? They want to know, what would Walter Dial say to my question this, or what would expert say to this question I have? And so, yes, you're 100% right. And I think that's the way that most podcasts should look at it. That's the way that you're going to see the most growth, because in that way you can target those topics that people are really searching for and answer them. So the way that you guys go about that is 100% right. And I think it's cool too that, you're not only talking about your own expertise, but you're bringing in people that are sometimes even, more informed than you guys are in specific areas. And I think that not only shows the listeners that, you guys have great connections and, your podcast is, a good, valuable tool, but also shows that, it shows to your listeners like, hey, we want the best for you, listener. We want the right information to come across your ears, and we want the right person to deliver it who knows the most. And so I think, again, in terms of building trust, that's a great thing. And on top of that, this is kind of a look behind the curtain, but guests are also great on podcasts just for promotion reasons. Guests bring their own audiences. They bring their own social media channels. And, we always give them promotional material to go out and promote it as well. So, if you're looking to do a podcast, back to Pat's original question, if you're thinking about it, consider guests for multiple reasons, because they bring their own expertise and value, but they also bring their own audience, and it'll help you grow. And that's what, we're looking to do. We're looking to build value.
Okay. So we need to wrap up. I've got a golf event this afternoon that I got to get to, but let's say business owner, they've decided with help probably, yep, podcast is right for me. They've answered the question, why a podcast, and the answer is affirmative, and they're going to move forward. Practically and briefly, 1, 2, 3, what are 3 steps they can take to make it happen?
Sure. The first thing that I would recommend you do is Google or go to YouTube and search some basic generic keywords of what you do. So, for example, you guys, exit planning. Look at the top videos that come up. Look at the top topics that come up, the titles that are coming up. Those are most of the time going to be the most popular searched videos. It usually takes a little bit more of a deep dive than that. You want to go through it very thoroughly, but those are usually the topics that you're going to want to potentially hit on. I would also recommend deciding to do a very specific amount of episodes to start. Podcasts are a lot of work and they're very tedious, and you might get to the point where you don't necessarily want to do it anymore. So I would highly recommend, instead of just quitting cold turkey, because I think that looks worse, tell your audience that you're doing a 12 episode series, and do 12 episodes, commit to 12 episodes in 12 weeks or one a month, do 12 a year, and commit to those. If you want more help with topics, ChatGPT, go to ChatGPT, say, this is what I do, this is who my audience is, and I need 12 podcast topics. Look at what ChatGPT spits out. Don't necessarily take it directly, but use that as a first step to get your topics, and then jump on a Zoom call with a business partner, with someone in your LinkedIn circle or something, and be willing to interview them. And then on top of that, I would really recommend, if you're starting, especially because, like we talked at the beginning, it's getting more saturated again. People are going back to podcasts. It's tough to be discovered these days if you don't have something already started. And so I would highly recommend looking to create shorts. We call them micro content, or swipe content, if you will, for places like YouTube especially, and TikTok especially. Yes, even if you're old, TikTok is a great platform to be on. There's a lady named Miss XL, and she specifically makes TikToks on on specific shortcuts in Excel, and she makes $100,000 a month just doing that. So there's people on TikTok for everything, including Excel shortcuts. So I would highly recommend, come up with topics, decide how many episodes you're going to do for like a season, and then have a plan for promotional material and a marketing strategy, if you will.
All right, very good. Yeah, you mentioned something almost in passing, that it's a lot of work, and some people just kind of bail out on it. And frankly, early on, there's more than one time where I was thinking about bailing out on it, probably because my co-host was making me mad about something. I don't know, but
his cuckoo clock was going off in the background or something.
I don't know, something. But I would say that a big reason we have lasted, and this is, I guess, a commercial for you, is we've had help. You doing all the stuff that you do that we don't know how to do to begin with. We wouldn't do even if we knew how to do it, probably. And so that's helped us to persevere. Okay, very good. Walter, you have any last questions before we wrap this up?
No, I think it's just important that anyone who's contemplating pursuing this, contact Joe and speak with him, because he's been fantastic for us. Comes highly recommended.
Yeah. Hey, Walter, let me ask you this though before we wrap up, because this is mostly about, again, building value in the company. Brand recognition, goodwill, resulting in all the benefits that I mentioned: financial benefits, market advantages, operational benefits. And so hence the big idea here is to increase the value of the business, the sellability of it. As a business valuation specialist, what would you have anything to say about brand recognition and goodwill in particular, when you're putting estimate of value on a company?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at risk factors for a business, which affects the overall valuation, the stronger the brand, the less risky they are. Now, it's not going to be a magnitude of, another digit on your multiple or anything, but it's going to, it definitely has an effect. And I think especially in the eyes of a buyer, it's something that they would see, and they would view it very favorably. Yeah,
I was reading an LOI just this week that was presented by one of our clients to one of our clients, and in the LOI, the letter of intention, the strong brand of the company that they were pursuing was absolutely highlighted and mentioned.
Yeah, cool.
That's not uncommon. So anyway, listeners, we have benefited in that way, I think, and we've got some empirical data on that. So we would strongly encourage you to consider that question, why a podcast? If you're interested in brand awareness, brand recognition, and
Pat, can I actually close on a
strengthening
story
your
real quick?
goodwill. Yeah.
Okay, so this is my last pitch for not necessarily podcasting, but long form video content. A lot of businesses right now are looking into doing shorts, TikToks, things like that. I just mentioned, those are still on the rise. This is my one pitch to consider not just doing those. There was a story it really happened, where there was this girl. She was probably my age. She's a TikTok star. She had 1.3 million followers on TikTok. All she did was TikToks. She just made TikToks, 30-second, 1-minute videos or whatnot. And she was invited to go to a massive video convention in California called VidCon. It's one of the biggest video, like online social media conventions in the United States. It is a very big deal. And she had 1.3 million followers, and she posted, she said, "Hey, I'm going to VidCon, and not only am I going to VidCon, but I'm having a meet and greet from this time to this time." And she went to her meet and greet, and not a single person showed up to her meet and greet at the biggest video convention in the world. And the main reason for this is because she had built zero trust or personal connection with her audience. All her audience cared about was the 30-second hit that they would get of watching her do something funny, and then they moved on. There's the biggest YouTuber in the world, Mr. Beast, almost at he's over 500 million subscribers at this point, has advocated time and time again. The reason that he does not do a ton of shorts, he does do shorts, but he doesn't do a lot of them, is because it doesn't build trust. And when we're trying to build value in a business, and we're trying to build a personal connection and trust with potential clients or potential buyers, you need to build that trust, and shorts are not going to cut it. People are going to learn their little tool from you, and they're going to move on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because with the longer form, folks do get to know you over time.
Yep. And you guys, I could almost guarantee that, I mean, you guys have already talked to people and met people that have, benefited from this show and have asked questions and want to potentially work with you and whatnot. She had 1.3 million followers. She probably got people saying, this is funny.
Yeah, Walter and I would be swamped. We'd be swamped if
But what I mean
is,
have
to have a security detail
at one of those conferences. I mean, we'd have to have security.
Yeah, we'd have to have security.
We'd have to have security. It'd be crazy. All right, listen, we got to wrap up. Tell the listeners, is there anything you want to promote? We always ask that question, as you know, and then provide your contact information.
Sure. So, contact Artform Agency. You can go to our website, artformagency.com. We create a ton of podcast videos. We've done documentaries. We do shorts. We'll do whatever you're looking for. We manage it all. We create strategic plans for you. We'll make your social media strategy, and we'll manage the whole thing. And we also have a podcast called Artform Intelligence, where we kind of talk about all these topics. Feel free to go listen to that too. It's on all your favorite platforms.
All right. Very good. Excellent. Okay, listeners, if you want help maximizing the value of your business and making it more transferable and sellable, and then planning for your eventual exit, please contact us, Ennis Legacy Partners. You know what, Joe? I'm going to start that over. Okay, listeners, and if you want help in maximizing the value of your business or planning for your eventual exit, please contact us at Ennis Legacy Partners through our website at ennislp.com or ExitReadiness.com. Thank you for listening, as always. And if you've benefited from today's episode, please consider liking it and sharing it on social media. We'd be very grateful. Until next time on the Exit Readiness Podcast, this is Pat Ennis and Walter Dial signing off.